Welcome back to the Die Again podcast, a tabletop role-playing game podcast. In this episode, we won't be doing any tabletop role-playing. I'm Josiah, normally your game master, and with me as always is normally the player,
William.
So, Season 5, Benjamin. I don't think he's the first character to kill someone, is he? Because didn't Corva...
I don't know. I think did he kill people?
That's what I'm trying to say. I can't remember. I thought he might have done that in the opening sequence, but I can't remember.
You might be right. And in that world, it was treated like, who cares? So...
But I will say, Benjamin's the first one to get such a brutal, clean kill.
Most definitely. Just because we were able to tie in this idea of his potential PTSD, what he saw, just instant.
All right, so I think to start things off, favorite moment in this season.
I don't think it'd be too surprising to any of the listeners about what the favorite moment is. It's definitely the action sequence in the last episode. Just a continuous rolling of different attributes of what's going on and that determining how things go. I felt like that was fantastic.
Yeah, that breach and clear for me is like absolutely my favorite thing we've done. This doesn't make it to be my favorite season yet, but that's definitely my favorite moment in any season so far.
I feel like that's pretty fair.
What's your favorite character out of everyone you've saw in this one?
I think the one that we interacted with the most would have been, what was the name of the local guide?
Koval?
Oh yeah, that's right, Koval. We interacted with her the most.
Her and Ortega.
Yeah, Ortega also.
But Ortega's pretty quiet.
Yeah, Ortega's pretty quiet, but Ortega got to see a lot of what was happening. He was kind of the eyes that saw some of the big things happen and relayed that to everybody else. But yeah, between those two, we spent the most time with them. There wasn't a whole lot of backstory or anything involved, but it was distinct characters that was fun to play with.
I definitely like Jurgis, Uncle Jurgis. He's great, especially because I know some things about him that are... He knows a lot of things that he never tells anyone.
So what you're saying is if we found his character sheet, that'd be interesting.
Be enlightening.
Oh, so Victor Smith really needs to get an interview with him.
And that interview needs to include duct tape and a wrench. What would you say is like the weakest moment in this one?
Really, maybe the only thing that was a little weak was just how quickly things escalated. I think the way how we tend to tell stories is a little bit of a slow burn in the very beginning, just setting up the scenario. And that takes a little bit of time. And unlike with Corva, where there was a direct goal involved, like here we did have that goal, but it was overshadowed by the fact that they're just seeing weird things happen.
Yeah.
So it kind of changed the focus. And then because of our really bad rules on the beginning of the last episode, that did help move things along significantly. Because for a little bit, it was like, we're seeing a little bit here, we're seeing a little bit there, wonder what that could be. And then we get it all ramped up very quickly.
I feel like I should have brought in the two factions sooner, the Miners Union and the Coal Shadows. If I'd brought those in on maybe episode 3, or even we did our bar visit in episode 1, so we definitely could have had a run-in with one of those groups then.
I feel like you almost planted the seed about it in the first episode.
Yeah, I was hinting at it, but you kind of stuck to your table, so it didn't develop into too much there.
Well, but also, too, didn't we buy drinks for the bar? So, like, any tensions that were there...
I think you were trying to cheers in the language was, like, the one thing you were doing.
But we were successful. Like...
Yeah, you didn't piss anyone off.
Right. I feel like if we had a bad role in that interaction, it probably would have came in directly there. Like, how dare you foreigners come in and mess with our miners union or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's like my one thing. Because otherwise, I feel like every episode we're progressing things a bit. So like in the first episode, you get to meet some characters and you find out, oh, they're keeping salt on the windowsills. That's a little weird. In episode 2, we first introduce, you get to the mine, we introduce the creeping plants. Then 3, you start to test the salt, all that.
4 is when we see the humanoid.
Episode 3, you see the deer. Well, you don't see it, but Ortega sees the deer get taken. Then 4, you see the human taken. Then 5, you kind of reach that action climax. And I was pretty happy with the progression. I think it was pretty solid. We had a few areas where it kind of slowed down a little bit, but I don't think it was anything too bad.
Well, and also too, we were trying to fulfill our contract and try to deal with that storyline of making sure everything's safe there. But overall, I felt like it was really good.
Yeah.
You tying in the mayor and some of these other not huge characters, but they had a purpose to explain how things were going.
I don't know if it'll come out as the weakest moment when you're done editing, but that scene where you and John are talking to the mayor, you probably are going to edit it so it doesn't sound like this, but there's this long pause where I was like, wait, I'm playing the important lead character on both sides of this.
Right.
It's like this long pause before I realized, like, wait, damn it.
I need to let Will drive a little on this.
I have to talk to myself for a bit before I can get Will's character in here.
Yeah.
I always hate that. That's the one thing I can't stand about being a DM is like sooner or later, you're always going to have this moment where an NPC has to talk to an NPC. And it's plot relevant enough where you have to actually talk it out.
Right.
And I'm just like, don't do this to me.
Me, don't do this to me.
Past me has caused problems for future me.
And current me is feeling it.
And now that's just present me. Is there anything that we did in this season that you think you really do or don't want to see in future seasons? I think for me, the sort of chained roles, I want to see more of those.
I have to agree with that. And the other thing I'd love to see too is having these well-developed characters where we can, for the most part, switch between 2 different groups or 3 or whatever. And they all have their own voices and motivations. Like we didn't go too deep into it, but the possibility was there for it. It wasn't just talking to NPC 1, 2, 3, and 4. It was, no, Jurgis, other name that I'm forgetting, and so on and so forth, McKinley, and having that predefined. And I wasn't really, for the audience, we talked about my character, making sure that was really fleshed out. And then you on your own made sure you had the rest of them really fleshed out for the different roles.
Yeah, and a little more behind the scenes. We had talked about if Benjamin had died, Will would have taken over one of the characters that we hadn't seen as much of yet. So maybe the quartermaster or our intel specialist. So
right. And I felt like that was a good potential. We didn't end up using it because unfortunately a lot of our characters don't necessarily get out of these things fully intact. And this one, not only did he get out of it alive, his whole team did, and everybody that we considered relevant in the town presumably got out as well. So it was very successful from that point of view. But it's nice to know that if there was way too many bad rules, the story would have at least not to the same conclusion, but it would have gotten to a conclusion more than just guys in the suits get the thing and that's the end of it.
And I don't know that I want to use that for every adventure, but it was a nice thing to have for this one because this was really the story of Greybridge security, not just Benjamin.
Right. It's a unit.
Exactly, yeah. I was looking at sort of all of my secrets. I think you found out about as much as I expected you to, a little bit more because you actually did take out those CIA operatives. So you did get that and you got everyone out alive. So I'd say that this might actually be your cleanest victory out of all 5 seasons so far, because season 1 you lost some of the local law enforcement. Season 2 you just totally lost, as well as season 4. Season 3, I'm trying to think, you had one of your people went down.
Right.
I don't think he died. I think he was just injured.
I don't think we ever clarified fully, but yeah, he was taken down and.
Yeah, so 3 suffered a little bit, but this one, you came out pretty clean. You almost lost Marcus. That was the closest you came.
Yeah, I was really worried when we were dealing with that interaction, saving the second Jeep from what was happening. I was like, man, we might go down doing this. And then presumably somebody would escape and that's who I'd be playing, but it didn't turn out that way. We were able to get out of that despite not the best roles all around.
Yeah, it was pretty close. I'll say that. I don't know if I imparted that, but it was definitely, you were pretty close to losing Marcus. And once Marcus went, every person you lost, it would make it that much easier for the planes to grab the next person.
Right.
So I think that was a good chase sequence.
Another thing I'd like to add into for what I really liked from this season and what like to see in the future too, is your base luck roll.
Yeah, that's sticking around for sure. I guess this is a good time to say it. I think Fudge is here to stay for a lot of this. We've pretty much come to an agreement. Fudge is working out very nicely. We don't have to call out numbers. You've got a good like baseline predictability of like, yeah, I generally perform at this level, but I do get these wild swings, like when you were getting +4s and -4s. And
Yeah.
so, but yeah, I think having some stuff that you just roll once per session at most is nice.
And letting that set the tone versus some of our prior seasons, we had roles like that throughout an episode. Versus this time, especially on that last episode. I mean, I rolled the worst roll you could get pretty much for that luck roll. And that's what started it being as aggressive as it was.
Like, you were only one level above terrible to begin with, and you rolled a -3. So if I was running kind of the way most people run Fudge, for all 10 people that run Fudge these days, you would have gone to like a terrible -2. But we do our cap and floor, which there are scenarios where I could see opening that up, but I like having it be just, this is as high as you can go, this is as low as you can go, because it's just a relative scale to begin with, in my view.
Right. Because as worse as that can get is realistically as bad as you could make the enemy. So
yeah, nobody else has roles or anything like that the way we run it, which, because it's a one-on-one, that works out. I think if I had more people, I would have to write up more rules about like opposed roles and whatnot, tiebreakers and all that. But for what it is, I think it's just not necessary. I do think I wasn't that happy with how the skills worked out, because your skills almost never were relevant. I don't think we even talked about it in the podcast. You had close quarters combat, which came up once. That was kind of me being pretty generous with it. And it didn't even matter because you rolled the exact same roll again when you used your reroll. And then lockpicking, which never came up. If you had found out about the other, then it might have. The factions, if you'd found out about them earlier.
right.
So the reason I'd come up with that was, you only roll attributes by you should have specializations like as a person. So my idea was that you would get these once per session rerolls, but they just weren't coming up. So I may be tweaking that somewhat in the future, because what I think I might do is make it like each rank in a skill lets you ignore a negative die.
Oh, that'd be interesting. So then it's really just a -1.
And you roll a -2, you turn that into a -1. Or if you roll what would be a 0 with 2 minuses and 2 pluses, you get to take out one of those and turn it into a +1.
That does sound very interesting, because then that encourages a player to go for those very specific things. And if it's a bad roll, it's not as bad.
Yeah, I like it because instead of making it so your rolls go up, like in absolute terms, instead it's more like I don't fail as often.
Right. I feel like that's more realistic too if you look at real life. When you have enough skills in a specific thing, it's not that you're always getting 100%, it's you're not failing at it.
Yeah, it could be that. It could just be like you get to re-roll that many minuses when you're doing something. Either way, because if you do it that way, then you still can get like a -4. It's just a lot less likely.
Right.
So, but I'm going to mess with that a little bit, because I'm not super happy with how those skills worked out. And I think I'll probably be giving out more skills, because that's really what distinguishes characters a lot, if I'm going to stick with the attributes here.
But also too, with what we just did, having so many different characters, having those skills spread out makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But when we're doing more condensed, then yeah.
But in general, I think we have more or less the basic structure for what we want for this setting from Fudge. Now, for the next setting, things will be pretty different, but I'm not going to give out too many spoilers on that yet. The next season, following our pattern from before, will be a step away from this setting. It should be pretty different. We are not returning to Corva.
But something within that world?
No. Although I have started putting together something for that world.
Very cool.
Let's see. Outside of that, I'd like to hear some of like what you think was happening.
It'd be really funny once this is running long enough to where we're getting even more details on what the CIA people are, how much of these potential ideas even make it through to it or are completely incorrect. But looking at what we discovered, one, we now know it's the CIA, which is very interesting. Two, we saw the reverse lightning, which who knows what that means. It really makes me wish that we could have had an episode to have gone inside the cave at some point just to see what was in there. Because unfortunately, with all the chaos from the super negative roll, that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Which I feel is understandable. But what I suspect what it is that the CIA is collecting artifacts, kind of like a Warehouse 13 kind of vibe, where they're just going around to these different sites and somehow containing whatever it is to some extent, which makes it really interesting to what they're going to be like if we're ever facing them full on. They might have some attributes of these different scenarios.
So what do you think caused the plant growth?
I don't think it was spontaneous. I think the CIA planted it. The only reason why I say that is because everybody was so thrown off by what was happening there. All the locals didn't. It's not like it was the only thing that kind of hints at it being a thing that they might have dealt with in the past is the salt, putting the salt on their windows and just that mentality. But I think that the CIA triggered what happened and then went in to get whatever out of that cave.
Interesting theory. I can neither confirm nor deny.
Hopefully we'll be able to find out, not directly to this, but just what it is that they're doing. Because correct me if I'm wrong, with the second season, wasn't there also a lightning component to that as well? Or was that just because of the storm?
There was a storm going. None of your characters ever were able to link the storm directly to what was happening. But I think you have made the inference before.
I'm really interested to see if Victor Smith even hears about this. Because if he does, then great.
Well, I am writing the next Victor Smith adventure, so that is on the queue. Next time we come back to the setting, it will be Victor Smith making his second appearance, either season 7 or 8, depending on how things go.
How much prep are you going to give me as far as this is what he knows now?
We're going to sit down and go over all that, because I think you need to have a pretty solid understanding of, because he's been active. He investigated what happened in season 4. He investigated what happened in season 2. He's been doing other investigating. He's been doing this very seriously for, I think, more than a year now.
What was the name of the uncle character in this group?
Uncle Yurgis.
If Yurgis uploads to the forum, that'd be hilarious. And that's how Victor Smith finds out.
No, he finds out because Marcus is uploading on MySpace.
That was another thing, too, that I feel like with John McKinley, we didn't get too much interaction between the two of them, but we did get some. And it was definitely tell that they were in fact friends.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that. That was hard to pull off.
Because I was intentionally calling him by his first name when it was more personal, because I feel like that makes sense. And then when it's more business, then it changes.
Yeah, for me, he was definitely a harder character to play because he's a leader character who's also, he has to be smart, he has to be able to lead people, but he also has all of this internalized anxiety about what if I get everyone killed? Because this is such a more serious setting than what Corva was in. Corva, it's oh yeah, people died and people always die.
These are characters that were deployed and lost people and don't want to keep on losing people even though they're not under a military banner or whatever.
Yeah, this setting, I try to keep everyone feeling like people, like normal, everyday people. This one was definitely, I think if I was doing this again, one of the big things I would have done is I would have put a little more time into the tactical and strategic parts of it, because I just didn't think about that as much as I should have, so it ends up sounding more awkward, but I just kind of always knew that that was never the actual focus of the season, because ultimately this really is a paranormal setting.
You meant as far as the distance between different things and...
Distance between things.
I mean, I thought the Walmart analogy was perfect.
The Walmart analogy worked out decently well, but what the perimeter was like, just having a little more hard detail on that kind of stuff, I think would have helped me. I would have been able to give you more options.
Right.
More walls to bounce off of, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. Until you had mentioned it on the 5th episode, I didn't even really consider going in the cave.
Yeah, it was episode 1 or 2. You were told, you're not supposed to go in the mines. Like, that's part of the job is you don't go in. You're just securing the perimeter.
Right.
I expected that you probably would never go in there, but I knew it was going to be your last chance. I threw it in there.
I guess that would have been another good point of potentially of talking with the miners if we had an interaction between some of the miners going into the cave and them just talking about it or whatever.
Yeah, because they were still moving equipment, so you hadn't seen anyone going in yet. You were getting your stuff set up in preparation for them to start bringing in all the heavy machinery. You were very much unmothballing everything at that point.
Right.
Yeah, I'd say overall, ranking this one, I'd put this in a solid second place for our seasons so far.
I think that's fair.
I definitely think the other big thing I need to work on, and this is probably something that you've edited out, but I was constantly having issues with how my notes are laid out because I just have like one big document with everything in it. And so I was constantly having to scroll up and down. So I'm going to be looking into some software that lets me like do non-linear organization. Anything else you want to bring up about this season?
Despite, from what you're saying as far as keeping things fairly serious, we were able to get a lot of good jokes in, a lot of good banter between different characters. So I feel like our storytelling ability is just getting better over time. And that's not only in the slow and steady stuff, but as the last episode has shown too, speeding things up dramatically and just getting a lot of roles in that infer direct results.
That was our longest action sequence yet, I'm pretty sure. And it was definitely, I think we've agreed it's our best one.
I imagine you never thought that any of the agents would have been offed at this point.
Those ones you are able to take down, and I won't tell you what the distinction is. I'll say they may have been agents with a lowercase a, but they weren't agents with a uppercase. They're not proper noun agents.
Kind of like having police officers and the PSA.
Oh man, imagine being part of the CIA and then they're like, yeah, you're like the PSA of the CIA. You're the directing traffic of the CIA.
But it's necessary.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny.
Okay, that's fair. It'll be very interesting to see long-term wise, dealing with the CIA agents that are much more qualified, how that goes. Because I'm sure most of the time it's stacked against me. Always. But this episode, though, showing with a commitment to action, you can make that happen.
And I'd say you probably could have believed that would have killed a normal one.
Well, as far as Benjamin's concerned, that's it. Like, he knows they're CIA adjacent, but he doesn't know, oh yeah, they also did a thing with zombies, and they have something with invisible flying things, and who knows what.
Well, I'll say that Jurgis did imply that what was going on was not normal CIA activity.
Right.
And he probably has told you enough that me telling you out of character that these were not like full up agents, I don't think that's too fourth wall breaking. I think your character would have been informed of that much.
Right. Oh, and I guess one last thing I think is that's worth discussing. With the luck roll in the beginning of the 5th episode, how much of a change would there have been if that was a +1 instead of a -3 or however?
If you had gotten a +1, you would have actually woken up before any serious attack started.
Okay.
So you guys could have actually cleared out of there before the roads were too bad.
Yeah, that would have been interesting because I'm sure the CIA agents would have still been involved in all that, but it'd be far less tension. Maybe then I wouldn't have shot them immediately. Maybe that could have turned differently because there wasn't, oh crap, we're all going to die. Oh, they're about to shoot the priests. I'm defending the priests.
Yeah. Your character would have been hopped up on adrenaline the same way. Yeah, I think that would have been a major tone shift. We could have actually seen another episode out of it, I think. Your people might have deployed to try and protect the city itself.
And then potentially have had time to talk with the miners and the coal shadows. We would have had that opportunity to have done that. But it rolled the way that it did, and it worked pretty well for us, I believe. That was a lot of rolls. We were both, you can hear it in our voices, we were both like, oh crap, like, go, 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 go.
Doing that countdown, I think, was really a good move to force it to keep the pressure on.
Right, make a decision, and we're just having to deal with that, however good or bad it was.
And I'll say that our next season will definitely have some action in it. So I think that's all I've got for this season.
Yeah, I think so. I'm the same as well. It was really good. I enjoyed playing it.
Yep. And I enjoyed actually all of my characters this season. I didn't have anyone where I was like, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, that's really good too. I mean, we edited it out ultimately, but you know what your character is. You're not having to come up with that on the spot.
All right, let's cut it there.
Okay. Hey everyone, we hope you enjoyed the retrospective episode of Season 5 of the Die Again podcast. We at the Die Again podcast love hearing your thoughts, so drop your comments wherever you're tuning in from. Also, don't forget to follow us on X, Threads, and Blue Skies. Just search for Die Again podcast, all one word. Bye.